The Apache woman begged in tears, "Don't spend money on me." But the poor farmer gave his last coin. Dust rose gently with every step he took, clinging to his worn shoes and tired clothes. The sun was already low, painting the sky with soft orange light as he walked home from the market. His basket was almost empty. He had not sold much that day, and the little money he earned was barely enough to buy food for himself. Still, he walked with calm patience, as he had learned long ago that worry did not change hunger. The farmer was a simple man. He owned a small piece of land that gave him just enough crops to survive. Some seasons were kind, others were harsh, but he never complained. Life had taught him to accept whatever came his way. He believed that even the hardest days passed if one kept moving forward. That belief was the only wealth he carried with him. As he reached a bend in the road, something unusual caught his attention. Near a broken fence under the shade of an old tree sat a woman. She was wrapped in a thin shawl, her body still, her head lowered. At first, the farmer thought she might be resting, but something about her posture felt heavy, as if she was carrying a great burden. He slowed his steps and looked more closely. The woman appeared weak and tired. Her face showed signs of long hardship, and her eyes, when she briefly lifted them, were filled with quiet pain. The farmer noticed that she was an Apache woman, far from any place that might offer comfort or safety. Seeing her alone on the road made his heart uneasy. It was rare to find anyone sitting there at that hour, especially someone who looked so fragile. He stopped a few steps away, unsure whether he should speak. He did not want to disturb her, but his conscience would not allow him to simply walk past. Clearing his throat gently, he asked if she was all right. His voice was soft, careful not to frighten her. The woman did not answer right away. She pulled her shawl tighter and turned her face away. After a moment, she spoke in a low voice, asking him to leave her alone. There was no anger in her words, only exhaustion. The farmer nodded slowly, respecting her wish, but he did not move. Something inside him urged him to stay. He asked again, this time offering help instead of questions. He said he was a farmer from the nearby village and that he meant no harm. The woman shook her head. Her hands trembled slightly as she held the edge of her shawl. She told him she did not need help and that he should save whatever he had for himself. Those words struck him deeply. People who had enough rarely spoke that way. He could sense that she was not only tired but also broken by life in ways that were hard to see. He gently asked if she had eaten. At this, her strength seemed to fade. Her shoulders began to shake and quiet tears rolled down her cheeks. She looked at him then, really looked at him, as if deciding whether she could trust him. Her eyes filled with tears as she begged him not to spend money on her. She said she knew how hard life was and that she did not want to take anything from someone who barely had enough. Her voice cracked as she spoke, revealing deep dignity mixed with pain. The farmer listened without interrupting. Every word she said felt heavy. He could hear honesty in her voice, not desperation, but concern for someone else's hardship despite her own suffering. That kind of selflessness was rare, and it stirred something in his heart. He told her he understood hunger and loss because they had been his companions for many years. He explained that he had little, but he believed that no one should be left alone when they were hurting. His words were simple, but they came from truth. The woman wiped her tears, still shaking her head, insisting that he should go home. For a moment, the farmer felt the weight of his own reality press down on him. In his pocket was a single coin, the last one he had. It was meant for his meal that night. Without it, he would sleep hungry. His stomach already ached, reminding him of what he would lose if he chose kindness over survival. Silence filled the space between them. The road was empty, and the evening breeze carried the smell of dry earth. The farmer looked at the woman again. She sat there quietly now, her tears slowing, her eyes fixed on the ground. She looked like someone who had given up expecting help from the world. Slowly, the farmer stepped back, as if preparing to leave. The woman did not look up. He turned and walked a few steps away, each step heavier than the last. His mind was filled with conflict. He thought of his empty home, the long nights of hunger, and the endless struggle of his life. But then he remembered something his father once told him, that a person's worth was not measured by what they owned, but by what they were willing to give. That memory stopped him in his tracks. He stood still, breathing deeply, listening to his heart instead of his fear. He turned back. The woman looked up in surprise as he returned. Before she could speak, he raised his hand gently, asking her to listen. He told her he could not walk away knowing someone was suffering. He said that helping her was not a loss, but a duty he chose with his own will. Tears filled her eyes again, but this time they were mixed with disbelief. She whispered once more that he should not spend money on her. Her voice was soft, almost pleading. The farmer gave a small, calm smile. He did not argue. Instead, he simply sat down a short distance away, sharing the quiet with her. As the sun disappeared below the horizon, the road grew dim. Two strangers sat together in silence, connected by hardship and humanity. In that moment, the farmer had not yet given his last coin, but the decision had already been made in his heart. This meeting on a dusty road, so small and unnoticed by the world, was the beginning of something greater. A simple act of kindness was about to change two lives forever, proving that even in poverty, the human heart can still be rich with compassion. Night slowly settled over the road, and the cool air replaced the heat of the day. The sky darkened, and the first stars began to appear, faint but steady. The farmer and the woman remained seated near the old tree, surrounded by silence. The world seemed to pause around them, as if giving them space to breathe and speak. The woman kept her eyes lowered. Her hands rested in her lap, thin and tired, showing signs of long struggle. After a long moment, she spoke again, her voice quiet but firm. She repeated her request, asking the farmer not to spend any money on her. She said it was not right for someone with so little to give to a stranger who had nothing to offer in return. The farmer listened carefully. He did not rush her or interrupt. He understood that her words came from a place of deep pride and pain. He could sense that she had learned to survive by depending only on herself, even when her strength was gone. Her refusal was not rejection, but protection. She took a deep breath and began to share her story, slowly and carefully, as if each word was heavy. She spoke of a life once filled with family and belonging, where people looked out for one another. Over time, those connections faded. Hard days turned into harder years, and loss followed loss. She did not describe everything in detail, but her tone carried the weight of experience. She explained that she had traveled far, hoping to find work or shelter, but the journey had taken more from her than it had given. Hunger had become a constant companion. Still, she said she would rather endure that than accept help that might hurt someone else. Her voice shook slightly as she spoke, and tears gathered in her eyes again. The farmer felt a tightness in his chest. Her concern for him, a stranger, touched him deeply. He had met many people who demanded help without thought, but this woman feared being a burden more than being hungry. That kind of heart was rare. He told her that kindness was not something to fear. He said that giving did not always leave a person with less. Sometimes it filled a space inside that nothing else could reach. His words were gentle, meant to comfort, not to convince. He did not want to force her to accept anything. The woman shook her head again, more firmly this time. She wiped her tears and looked straight at him. She said she had seen people suffer because they gave too much. She did not want to be the reason someone else went without food or rest. Her voice grew stronger as she spoke, showing that beneath her weakness was a strong spirit. A long silence followed. The farmer looked down at his hands, rough from years of working the land. He thought of his own past, the many times he had gone to sleep hungry, the mornings he woke up with hope despite empty cupboards. He understood her fear because he lived it every day. Still, his heart would not let go of the idea of helping her. He believed that life had brought them together for a reason. He looked up at the sky, where the stars now shone clearly, and felt a quiet resolve settle within him. He asked her where she planned to go next. She hesitated before answering. She said she did not know. The road ahead was uncertain, and she had stopped there because her body could no longer move. Admitting that seemed to cost her great effort. Her shoulders slumped and her voice softened. The farmer nodded slowly. He understood what it meant to reach a point where the body and spirit both felt empty. He told her that stopping was not a failure. Sometimes, rest was the only way to survive. His words were simple, but they carried understanding. She looked at him with a mix of gratitude and sadness. She said she wished the world had more people like him, but she still could not accept his money. She insisted that he go home and take care of himself. Her concern for his well-being was sincere. The farmer stood up and walked a short distance away, pretending to look at the road ahead. In truth, he was fighting a storm inside his mind. He reached into his pocket and felt the small coin there. It felt heavier than it should have, as if it carried the weight of a decision that could not be undone. He thought about how that coin could buy him a simple meal. Without it, his night would be long and uncomfortable. But he also thought about the woman sitting under the tree, alone and tired, with nowhere to go. The thought of leaving her behind filled him with unease. He returned and sat down again. He told her that he respected her feelings but asked her to respect his choice as well. He said that giving was something he needed to do, not because she asked, but because his heart demanded it. The woman's eyes filled with tears once more. She looked away, shaking her head slowly. She whispered again, almost like a prayer, asking him not to spend money on her. Her voice broke and her shoulders trembled as emotion overcame her. The farmer remained calm. He did not rush or argue. He simply stayed, offering his presence. Sometimes he believed being there was the greatest help of all. As the night grew deeper, the road remained empty and the quiet between them became less heavy. Though no coin had yet changed hands, something important had already passed between them, an understanding, a shared humanity that went beyond hunger and fear. This moment of tears and refusal was not the end of their meeting, but a turning point. The woman's dignity and the farmer's compassion were now bound together, setting the stage for a choice that would soon change both their lives in ways neither of them could yet imagine. The farmer finally rose from the ground and brushed the dust from his clothes. The night air felt colder now, and the quiet road seemed longer than before. He told the woman he would return soon and began to walk away. His steps were slow, not because he was tired, but because his mind was heavy with thoughts. Each step felt like a question with no easy answer. As he moved farther down the road, the image of the woman stayed with him. Her tired eyes, her shaking voice, and the way she begged him not to spend money on her kept returning to his mind. He tried to tell himself that he had done enough just by stopping and listening. Many people would have walked past without a second glance. Still, his heart was restless. The farmer reached a small rise in the road and stopped. From there he could no longer see the woman, but he could feel her presence as if she were still beside him. He placed his hand into his pocket and touched the single coin resting there. It was smooth and cold, familiar from being handled so many times. That coin represented his dinner, his comfort, and his safety for the night. His stomach tightened as hunger reminded him of its power. He had eaten very little that day. The thought of going home with nothing made him feel weak. He imagined sitting alone in his small house, listening to the silence while his body asked for food he could not give it. That future felt real and close. He began to argue with himself in his mind. He told himself that he was not responsible for every suffering person in the world. He reminded himself that he was poor too, that life had never been easy for him. He wondered if kindness had limits, and if this was one of them. But another voice rose inside him, quiet yet firm. It asked him how he would feel tomorrow if he walked away. Would he be able to sleep knowing he chose his comfort over another person's need? He imagined the woman still sitting under the tree, alone in the dark, with nothing but the cold road around her. That image troubled him deeply. Memories from his past began to surface. He remembered a time when he was younger and had fallen sick during a harsh season. He had no money and no strength to work. A neighbor, just as poor as he was, had shared a simple meal with him. That act of kindness had kept him going when he thought he would not survive. He remembered how ashamed he had felt accepting help and how grateful he had been afterward. Those memories softened his heart. He realized that kindness had once saved him. Now life was asking him to offer the same to someone else. The thought brought both fear and peace at the same time. The farmer turned around slowly. His legs felt heavy, but his decision was becoming clearer with every step back. The road seemed shorter now, as if it welcomed him. When he saw the old tree again, his heart beat faster. The woman was still there, sitting quietly, her posture unchanged. She looked up when she heard his footsteps. Surprise crossed her face, followed by concern. She stood slightly as if ready to speak, but he gently raised his hand, asking her to stay calm. He sat down again, closer this time, though still giving her space. He told her that he had tried to leave, but his heart would not allow it. He explained that sometimes a person must listen to what feels right, even when it is difficult. The woman looked at him with wide eyes. She said he should not trouble himself. She repeated that she did not want his money, his food, or his comfort. Her voice trembled not with anger but with fear of causing him harm. The farmer took a deep breath. He spoke slowly, choosing his words with care. He told her that helping her was his choice, not a sacrifice forced upon him. He said that hunger was painful but regret could last much longer. His voice was steady, though his hands shook slightly. She lowered her head, tears forming again. She whispered that she had learned not to expect kindness because it often came with conditions. She said she did not want to owe anyone anything. Her past had taught her to be cautious, even with good people. The farmer nodded. He told her he did not want anything in return. He said that kindness did not need repayment. Sometimes it only needed acceptance. His words were simple, but they came from a deep place within him. A long silence followed. The night was quiet except for the soft sound of wind moving through the leaves. The farmer felt the weight of the coin in his pocket once more. He knew that once he gave it away, there would be no turning back. The thought scared him, but it also gave him a strange sense of calm. He stood up again, this time with purpose. He told the woman to stay where she was and began walking toward the nearby village. She called after him, her voice filled with worry, asking him not to do this. He did not turn back, but he heard her words clearly. They echoed in his heart with every step. As he walked, doubt tried to return. He wondered if he was being foolish. He wondered if kindness could truly make a difference in a world so full of struggle. Yet with each step forward, his resolve grew stronger. He told himself that even if the world did not change, at least one moment would. The lights of the village came into view, small and dim. The farmer felt tired but determined. He knew he was about to give away his last coin, the only thing standing between him and hunger that night. Still, his heart felt lighter than it had in a long time. This inner struggle, filled with fear and courage, was shaping him in ways he did not fully understand yet. The choice he was making was not just about money. It was about the kind of person he wanted to be. Behind him, under the old tree, the woman waited, unsure of what would happen next. Ahead of him, the village held both loss and possibility. Between these 2 points, the farmer walked with quiet strength, guided by compassion rather than fear. By the time he reached the edge of the village, his decision was complete. No matter what the night would bring, he knew he could live with this choice. In choosing to help, he had already found something greater than the coin in his pocket. The village was quiet when the farmer arrived. Most homes were dark, their doors closed for the night. A few lamps still glowed faintly through small windows, casting soft light onto the narrow paths. The farmer walked slowly, his footsteps echoing in the stillness. The coin in his pocket felt heavier with every step, not because of its weight, but because of what it meant. He stopped near a small shop that stayed open late for travelers and workers who returned after sunset. The owner knew the farmer well. They had shared many short conversations over the years, mostly about crops, weather, and hard times. Tonight, the shop owner noticed something different in the farmer's eyes, an urgency mixed with calm. The farmer asked for simple food and a few basic supplies that could last a short while. He did not ask for much, only what was necessary. As the shop owner gathered the items, the farmer reached into his pocket and placed the single coin on the counter. For a moment he hesitated, his fingers resting on it. Then he pushed it forward. The sound of the coin touching the counter felt final. The farmer knew there would be no meal waiting for him at home that night. Yet, instead of fear, he felt a quiet sense of peace. The shop owner looked at the coin, then at the farmer, as if wanting to say something. But seeing the farmer's steady expression, he said nothing and handed over the items. With the small bundle in his hands, the farmer stepped back into the night. The air felt colder now, and his stomach reminded him that he had chosen hunger. Still, his steps were firm as he walked back toward the road. The stars seemed brighter, as if watching silently. When he reached the old tree, he saw the woman sitting exactly where he had left her. She looked up when she noticed him approaching, her eyes widening when she saw what he carried. She stood quickly, shaking her head before he could even speak. Tears filled her eyes again as she begged him not to do this. The farmer placed the bundle gently on the ground between them. He spoke softly, telling her that it was done and that she should not worry anymore. He said that sometimes help comes not because it is easy, but because it is right. The woman covered her face with her hands and cried quietly. Her shoulders shook as emotion overcame her. She told him he should not have done this, that he would suffer because of her. Her words were filled with guilt and sorrow, as if she carried the weight of his hunger on her heart. The farmer knelt beside the bundle and opened it, showing her the food. He explained that hunger was something he knew well and that one night without food would not break him. What would hurt more, he said, was leaving someone in need when he had the chance to help. She looked at him through her tears, unable to understand how someone with so little could give so much. Her voice trembled as she thanked him, her words soft and sincere. She reached out, then pulled her hand back, unsure how to express her gratitude. The farmer encouraged her to eat. At first she refused, but her body betrayed her. Weakness made her sway slightly, and she had to sit down again. He stayed nearby, not watching closely, giving her dignity and space. Slowly she accepted the food, her hands shaking as she ate. As she ate, color slowly returned to her face. The tension in her shoulders eased, and her breathing became steadier. The farmer sat quietly, listening to the sounds of the night. Hunger gnawed at him, but he ignored it, focusing instead on the relief he saw before him. After some time, the woman spoke again, her voice calmer now. She told him that no one had shown her such kindness in a long time. She said that his act had reminded her that goodness still existed in the world. Her words were filled with emotion, but also with renewed strength. The farmer smiled gently. He told her that kindness often appeared when people least expected it. He said that life had been hard on him too, but moments like this made the struggle meaningful. Sharing that thought seemed to lighten the air between them. The night grew deeper, and the road remained empty. The farmer knew he could not stay much longer. He explained that he needed to return home before it grew too late. The woman looked worried again, asking how he would manage without food. He assured her that he would be fine, that he had endured many such nights before. Before he stood to leave, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, worn object. It was nothing of great value, but it was clearly important to her. She offered it to him, saying she wanted him to have something in return. The farmer gently refused, telling her that he did not help her to receive anything back. She nodded, understanding, though her eyes remained wet with emotion. She promised that she would never forget what he had done. Her words carried a quiet determination, as if she intended to honor his kindness in her own way someday. The farmer stood and adjusted his worn clothes. Hunger made him feel weak, but his spirit felt strong. He gave her one last look, making sure she was comfortable and safe for the night. Then he turned and began walking back toward his small home. Each step away from the tree felt heavy on his body but light in his heart. The road seemed less lonely now. Though he had given away his last coin, he felt richer than before. He knew that he had chosen compassion over fear, and that choice filled him with quiet pride. Behind him, the woman watched until he disappeared into the darkness. She held the warmth of the food and the memory of his kindness close to her heart. For the first time in a long while, she felt hope. The farmer reached his home late that night. He lay down on his simple bed, hunger still present but regret absent. As sleep slowly took over, he felt certain that no matter what tomorrow brought, he had done the right thing. That night, two lives rested under the same sky, connected by a single act of kindness. One had given everything he had, and the other had received more than food. The moment on the dusty road had now become a quiet promise, proof that even in the hardest times, humanity could still shine. Morning arrived quietly in the village. The first light of day slipped through the small window of the farmer's home. He opened his eyes slowly, feeling the familiar ache of hunger in his body. His stomach was empty, and his limbs felt weak, but his heart was calm. He lay still for a moment, listening to the sounds outside, roosters calling, footsteps on the road, life beginning again. He sat up and rubbed his face with tired hands. The memory of the night before returned clearly, the dusty road, the old tree, the woman's tears, and the last coin resting on the shop counter. For a brief moment, doubt tried to enter his mind. He wondered how he would manage the day without food or money, but the doubt passed quickly. In its place was a quiet certainty that he had done what was right. The farmer stood and stepped outside. The air was cool and fresh. He took a deep breath and looked at his small field. There was work to be done, as always. Hunger or not, the land still needed care. He picked up his tools and began working slowly, resting when his strength faded, then continuing again. Each movement required effort, but he did not complain. As the sun rose higher, something unusual happened. A neighbor walking by stopped and greeted him warmly. After a short conversation, the neighbor mentioned that there was extra work available that day, helping repair a fence near the edge of the village. It was small work, but it would come with a simple meal. The farmer felt surprised, but he accepted gratefully. He did not see it as a reward, only as life moving forward. By midday, word began to spread quietly through the village. Someone had seen the farmer late the night before, returning from the road without stopping to eat. Someone else had seen the Apache woman sitting near the old tree, no longer weak and alone. People began to talk, not with gossip, but with curiosity. The woman herself was already awake. After the farmer had left the night before, she had rested under the tree, holding the warmth of the food close to her. For the first time in many days, she slept without fear. When morning came, she felt stronger. Not fully healed, but no longer broken. She gathered her things and made her way slowly toward the village. With each step, she remembered the farmer's calm voice and gentle actions. She had met many people in her life, but few had shown kindness without asking for anything in return. His sacrifice stayed with her, not as guilt, but as a reminder of what humanity could be. When she reached the village, some people noticed her and offered help. A woman gave her water. Another pointed her toward a place where she could rest. The kindness surprised her, but she realized that it had begun with the farmer. His single act had opened a door. Later that day, the woman asked about the farmer. When she learned where he lived, she made her way there. He was resting outside after finishing the fence work, his body tired but his spirit steady. When he saw her approaching, he stood in surprise. She stopped a few steps away, her eyes filled with emotion. She thanked him again, this time with strength in her voice. She told him that his kindness had not only fed her body, but had also restored her faith. She said she wanted him to know that his sacrifice had not been wasted. The farmer listened quietly, feeling a warmth spread through his chest. He told her that seeing her standing there, stronger than before, was enough. He said that he had not helped her expecting any outcome, but this moment brought him peace. In the days that followed, small changes continued. The woman found a place to stay and simple work to do. She worked hard, determined to rebuild her life. The farmer returned to his fields, still poor, still struggling, but now carrying a story that gave him strength on difficult days. People in the village began to treat the farmer with a new respect. Not because he had money or power, but because his actions spoke louder than words. Some were inspired to help others in quiet ways of their own. A meal shared, a kind word offered, a hand extended, these small acts began to appear more often. The farmer noticed these changes but did not take credit. He believed that goodness moved through people like a gentle wind, unseen but powerful. He continued living simply, working his land and facing hardship with patience. One evening, as the sun set, the farmer walked past the old tree again. He paused for a moment, remembering how close he had come to walking away. He realized that the choice he made that night had changed him as much as it had helped the woman. He was no longer just surviving, he was living with purpose. The woman, too, carried the memory forward. She made it a promise to herself that whenever she could, she would help someone else in need. She understood now that kindness did not belong only to the rich or strong. It belonged to anyone willing to act. Time passed, and life continued with its usual struggles and joys. The farmer remained poor in possessions but rich in spirit. He never forgot the night he gave his last coin, because it taught him that true wealth was not something that could be held in the hand. Years later, people would still speak of that simple act on the dusty road, not as a grand story, but as a quiet lesson. A poor farmer, an Apache woman, and a single choice made with compassion. It reminded everyone who heard it that even the smallest kindness, given at great cost, could create ripples that lasted far beyond one night. And so the story ended not with riches or rewards, but with something far greater. Two lives were changed, a community was touched, and a truth was proven once again, that even in the hardest moments, choosing kindness can light the way forward.